1,833 hours. That's the average Korean's working year, one of the longest in the developed world. $53.30. That's the economic value each of those hours produces. It sits below the average for comparable economies. Put those two numbers side by side, and you get the real story of Korean work culture. It's not just that Koreans work too much. Korea puts in long hours and still lags on output per hour, while two other numbers are quietly moving in the opposite direction. This is what the data behind Korea's work culture actually looks like. Start with the headline number, because it's real. In 2025, the average Korean worked 1,833 hours, the latest OECD figure. Compare Germany at 1,332 hours. The gap is 501 hours a year, meaning Koreans effectively work about 3 months more than Germans do. On the OECD chart, Korea ranks 6th longest, behind only Mexico, Costa Rica, Chile, Greece, and Israel, while the OECD average sits at 1,736. But here's the part that Korea never stops working narrative misses. This number is falling fast. In 2000, Koreans worked more than 2,500 hours a year. That's roughly 700 hours cut in one generation, including 32 hours in the last year alone. The 52-hour workweek law, phased in since 2018, shows up directly in the data. So the honest starting point is this: it is still long, but it is shrinking steadily, not stuck. Here's where it gets uncomfortable. If long hours built growth, Korea's output per hour should be near the top of the pack. It isn't. Korea's GDP per hour worked sits at $53.30. The comparison group of major economies averages $77 an hour, and Korea runs at about 70% of that. Ireland tops the list at $151 an hour, though multinational company profits inflate that figure heavily. Even without Ireland's outlier effect, most peer economies that work fewer hours than Korea still produce more value per hour worked. That's the paradox. More time in the office was supposed to accelerate economic catch-up. The data over the last 2 decades tells a different story. Korea's growth increasingly has to come from working smarter, not working longer, because the hours lever is running out of room. There is one piece of good news. The $53 figure is climbing, up from $50.10 just the year before. Output per hour is slowly climbing, even as total hours worked continue to fall. Now for the number that surprised me most researching this. For a decade, Koreans don't take vacation was simply true. A widely cited 2016 industry survey ranked Korea dead last among 28 countries. Workers use just 8 of their 15 paid days a year. That statistic still gets quoted constantly. It's also badly out of date. The latest data, from 2025, puts Korea's paid leave usage rate at 53%, higher than Japan at 36%, and higher than Hong Kong at 43%. The 52-hour law, a generational shift toward work-life balance, and a post-pandemic travel boom moved the number faster than most people noticed. Korea didn't become a vacation culture overnight. It quietly passed the very countries it used to be unfavorably compared against. Work culture in Korea isn't one static thing. Hours are down. Leave usage is up. Something is genuinely shifting underneath the headlines. So if the law caps the workweek at 52 hours and vacation is finally being used, is the system actually working the way it's supposed to on paper? Here's a data point from this summer. One regional labor office covering Ulsan ran a 2-month inspection sweep this past May and June. 57 companies checked. 223 violations found. Unpaid overtime, broken 52-hour caps, missing contract paperwork. In just 2 months, from just one district, inspectors recovered about $400,000 in unpaid wages. This is one region, not a national average, and it would be a mistake to extrapolate one inspection to the whole country. But it's a rare, concrete look at what turns up the moment someone actually checks. The rules exist. The gap between the rules and the reality isn't zero. So here's the full data chain, not the headline version. Hours, still long, but falling faster than most people realize. Productivity, still behind, but slowly climbing. Vacation, a decade-old worst in the world stat that's now simply false. Enforcement, real on paper, but still catching up to reality. None of those 4 numbers agrees with the simple story. Not Koreans are workaholics. not Korea fixed its work culture. The real picture is a country moving in the right direction on 3 of 4 measures at different speeds. The gap between rule and reality remains the hardest part to close. In the videos linked below, I broke down each of these numbers: the hours, the productivity gap, the vacation reversal, and what inspectors actually found. The numbers connect. Subscribe.